Hi, I'm Blair. Welcome to my garden. I sheet mulched this entire strip in sections over about 2 years. I put down cardboard and arborist wood chips in this section last fall. So it's been sitting here for a year, and I'm going to plant into it next year. And I've scattered comfrey that I propagated from root cuttings throughout the garden. This is a Ukrainian quince, KRIMSKAYA quince. I just planted it in spring, so it's still alive, but it'll take off hopefully next year. And this is a ruby autumn olive. It looks dead, but I'm hoping it's not. It hopefully will take off next year. This is a Chicago hardy fig, and this is one of the only fig varieties that I can grow in Zone 6A. It died to the ground, and this is, I tried to bury it last year in leaves, and it didn't really take. So it sprouted up from the roots, and it is putting on figs. I don't know, I've got a dozen or so here, and I'm hoping that they ripen up soon before we get a frost. This is a YOSTAberry. I planted it in 2021. They're a cross between a gooseberry and a currant. They're actually really good. This is a bush raspberry that spreads throughout the garden. So if that's something you're interested in, this is a bushel and berry variety. This is a contorted jujube that I planted last year, and I thought it was dead this year, and it's kind of slowly taking off. This is a GOUMI. This is red gem, and I also have sweet scarlet. The red gem puts out a bigger berry than the sweet scarlet, and I think I like it more, although it's kind of slower to grow. This is a honeyberry variety. For honeyberries, you need cross-pollination of a different variety, so I have another one that's planted right here. And while I'm here, I'm going to grab a couple of tomatoes. It just kind of popped up when it put some compost down. This is peppermint. It does spread, which is fine by me. I have a lot of space to fill in. This is another jujube. This is Lang. It's also been slow to take off. I planted Lee over there, which is huge. This is a thornless blackberry. I think it's Apache. I didn't build the trellis yet, but it works pretty well just by putting it on a stake. Here's another honeyberry. It's a strawberry sensation. It'll probably put on honeyberries next year. I got some off of the big bush earlier this year. This is a Columbia Giant blackberry. So this is all new growth from this year. This is the sweet scarlet GOUMI. And this did put on a lot of fruit this year, and it tends to be there's a spider. It tends to be a little bit smaller than red gem, but when it's dead ripe, it's really tasty. This is a white imperial currant. As you can tell, it's kind of beat up by the sun. It is one of the only currants that has survived. In general, in Zone 6A, currants need afternoon shade. If you have afternoon shade and morning sun, they'll tend to survive better with our hot summers. This is a multi-grafted Asian plum. I did get quite a few plums this year. I think there's 4 or 5 kinds on here, which is great if you have a small space. This is Lee jujube, which is planted at the exact same time as Lang. And I've had to try to pull it back to keep it upright. It's got these really spiky thorns. I got a couple of jujubes, or I should say the squirrels got a couple jujubes this year. But this does need cross-pollination with another variety, and I'm hoping to get some jujubes next year. This is a blueberry. I have a tag. It didn't do anything this year. I planted it last year. Let's see. Chippewa. This is a Formosa carpet raspberry. I got it from One Green World. Supposed to put on these orange raspberries eventually, but so far not yet. This is the second growing season. This is a miniature dwarf nectarine. It's called NECTA'S. and I planted it this spring. And the miniature dwarf trees tend to get fruit faster than a standard, so I would expect to get some fruit on this next year. This is a multi-grafted European pear. I got one pear the squirrels enjoyed this year quite a bit. I'm hoping for a different strategy next year. See here I have 4 raised beds. I have a 5th that has asparagus, but I've got quite a few tomatoes to pick. I've started some fall lettuce and broccoli underneath my tomatoes because these are about done. This was probably my favorite tomato this year. This is called black strawberry. It's just a really cool colored tomato, and it tastes really good too, so that helps. I try to grow some flowers underneath my tomatoes to encourage beneficial insects, so that's a red yarrow. I have thyme. I had dill here earlier, and that's chives, and I stuck a cantaloupe in here, which is almost done. You can tell it's done if the stem separates cleanly. This is my pepper extravaganza. I have a couple of tomatoes in here that popped up in the compost. Here I mainly grow jalapenos, serranos. I have a little miniature bell pepper, and I have shishito peppers. But I like to get it's a red jalapeno. If you need a set of pruners, these Felco ones are about the best ones you can buy. This is a volunteer tomato I tried to trellis up. It's taken the entire trellis down, but it's still putting on a ton of fruit, so I figured why not just let it be. Okay, here I have tomatillos, which was my beautiful wife's request. But you can tell that they're ripe and they start to peel back from that shell. And they're kind of hollow until then. This tomato is called Brad's Atomic Grape. And I got the seeds from Baker Creek. And they're just incredible looking. They're really good roasted, but they put on a ton of fruit. Anything that's overripe or split, I just try to shoot with the compost bin. Score! These are those black strawberries again. They are fantastic. And here's an eggplant. This is just one plant from seed. Now, eggplants you want to harvest when they're immature. If you let them ripen to their full size, they will be bitter. So this is a nice purple eggplant, good size, good color. We'll maybe make some eggplant parmesan tomorrow night. This is the kind of back forest. This is a bush cherry, I think it's Juliet, and I've planted comfrey underneath it just for chop and drop mulch. And then over here I have some columnar apples, and they kind of shade my pawpaw. This is an Allegheny pawpaw in its second full growing season, and I haven't had to shade it. And underneath the pawpaw I have some replanted tomatoes from suckers, and I have gooseberries. Okay, this is another pawpaw, its second year. This is overlessy. Then I have 2 more smaller pawpaws that require shade cloth for the first couple years, otherwise they will burn up. This is a gooseberry, Hinomaki red. It's done really well, mainly because it's been shaded from afternoon sun from the pawpaws and from a Russian crabapple that I've overgrafted with a couple of different varieties of apple. This is my raspberry patch, and I have Marionberry and fall-bearing raspberries kind of spread around. As you can see, they do sucker and produce more plants. I only planted, I think, 4, and I have maybe, I don't know, 15 plants. I need to clean them up a little bit. I've tried to trellis sown them to keep them from spiking me. I have planted comfrey around the pawpaws to keep the ground cool. And this is this mess is BLACKCAP raspberry in its 2nd growing season. And I've just tried to tie them up to keep them from rooting themselves, which raspberries will spread by the roots or the tips going to the ground. And around here I've planted some more gooseberries. And when they get shaded out by the comfrey, I just cut the comfrey back. And here you can kind of see a pawpaw that has been that I'm protecting with shade cloth. If I didn't, it would burn up. And I'll probably do 1 more season of shade cloth, and then it'll be good to go. This is a Che or Z. It's a Chinese mulberry or melonberry. This was named after the TVA Norris Dam, which is where a rare fruit explorer brought it in the early 1900s. This is just some bamboo for fun and diversity, I guess. This is Egyptian walking onion. It puts on bulbs at the top and then it falls over, and it's a good onion substitute. And I have elderberry growing back kind of in the lower part of the yard. They like wet feet. So if you have a wet section of your garden with some sun, elderberry will do great there. This is another autumn olive. This is amber. And I planted this at the same time as the one that's dead up there, and it's doing really well. This is another elderberry I planted this year, and it's growing like crazy. I've had to tie it up. I may prune this back. This is another sweet scarlet GOUMI that I got quite a bit of fruit of this year. This is a nitrogen fixer, so it takes in atmospheric nitrogen, has a beneficial relationship with the bacteria in the soil where they share nutrients. It releases nitrogen when you prune it, so I did prune this back, and you do get fruit out of it too, which is helpful. This is a Flavor Punch PLUERRY I planted this spring, and it's done really well. And I have a ground cover of strawberries here with 2 honeyberries on either side for cross-pollination. I just put this trellis in this year. I planted, this is a male hardy kiwi, and this is Anna, female hardy kiwi. I just planted it a few weeks ago and hoping it takes off shortly. This is an early girl. I transplanted from a cutting. I'll let that ripen on the kitchen counter. And this is all lemon balm, which smells incredible, and it will move all over the garden. So if you like herbs that are easy to grow, I'd recommend lemon balm. This is my asparagus raised bed. It's going to go crazy next year, but I'm letting the roots settle in. I just planted it this spring, and I have 4 varieties of asparagus in here. And this is a birdie's raised bed, which is really easy to put together and looks like it'll last forever. This is my blueberry raised bed. This blueberry has been amazing. I've gotten a bunch of blueberries off of this. This is just the 2nd year. But the middle one, I think it's called Echo. It's terrible. It produces little tiny berries you can barely taste. I wouldn't grow this again. And then I have Patriot blueberries on the other side. You have to constantly check the soil. I think that these are growing in wood chips and coconut coir, and then you can just add sulfur. They like a pH of 4 to 5.5 maybe. All right, this is what I call Fruit Island, and these were the first apple tree that I put in. I'm growing these. They're planted about 2 feet apart, and I'm pruning the middle out, and I'm keeping them short. There's 4 different types. They're successful growers. I got some apples this year, but the squirrels got more of them. But this is just a kind of a fun way to try to grow multiple fruit trees in a small space. And when I plant them, I cut them off at the knee. As long as you cut them above the graft union, they should survive. I'd recommend at least a foot above the graft union. And they tend to put on more fruit on lateral branches. So I just summer prune these to keep them short, and then I'll come back in and winter prune them to clean them up and get any cross branches out. This is, wow, look at that cool mushroom. I haven't seen that yet. It's awesome. This is sea kale. You can take these cuttings off here and blanch them, cook them. We have not tried that yet. It's a good alternative to not growing just a bunch of hostas, something you can actually eat. This is lavender. It smells amazing. This is a peach. It's had some terrible disease problems. Here this is called gummosis, where this got this gummy kind of texture from wet feet. If anybody has ideas on how to get rid of that, I'd greatly appreciate it. But it's put a ton of peaches on this year, and the squirrels got 99% of them. This is a combination peach and nectarine. This is Nectar Babe, nectarine, and a pixie peach. I actually got more fruit off of this than I did the semi-dwarf peach this year. But I got fruit first growing season. And this is a really cool plant. You can put it in a very small space. You don't need another variety because you have a peach and a nectarine on one stalk. This is another strawberry patch. I also have thyme. This is yarrow. And then I have peppermint and mojito mint. And then these are some ever-bearing strawberries. I haven't quite figured out how to grow strawberries yet, but I do get a few here and there. They're kind of small, but I would say the flavor is unmatched with anything you can buy in the store. Jack is smelling the rabbits. He's a good rabbit and squirrel patroller. Aren't you, buddy? Yeah. You can't see it, but underneath this volunteer tomato is a Nanking cherry. And these burn up a ton in Zone 6A, Kansas City area. They do like some shade, at least in this area, until they're established. So if you have something like this where you can put a tomato or something to kind of help it out, this is the most it's grown all year. And that's because it's been almost completely shaded by this tomato. This is an autumn brilliance serviceberry. We'll see what the leaves look like this fall. This is planted ornamentally all over Kansas City. So if you want to try serviceberries, just go up to a lot of shopping centers and just pick them in June. They're also called June berries because they're June bearing. And if I had the choice, I would put something different here. This is sea buckthorn. It's another nitrogen fixer. And he's got these gnarly looking spikes on it. I mean, and some of the spikes have spikes. So that spike has a spike. They're supposed to put on an orange berry. I haven't gotten one yet. They are dioecious, so they require a male to to pollinate a female. I've got a male planted way over there, and I have 2 females. So I'm hoping to get some sea berries next year. I've started planting just some flowers. This is rudbeckia. And then I have thyme here, and then I have a ground cover thyme next to a hybrid persimmon. This is Nikita's gift. It was planted this spring. So it's not much now. Hopefully it'll be more impressive next year. This is a loganberry, which is a cross between a blackberry and a red raspberry. And I just planted it this fall. This is another Chicago hardy fig. I planted it this year. Again, if you don't want to protect it in the winter, it will die back to the roots and then resprout. I'm going to try to protect it. I'll let you know how that goes. This is another sea berry, a female. This is a named variety, so it's supposed to taste better, but so far no fruit. And this is the second growing season. This is another Nanking cherry that again has not done well with the hot summers here. I'm hoping this one will take off next year. Then I have false blue indigo here. And this is a nitrogen fixer also, planted right next to my multi-grafted apple tree. I did get some apples on this year. My favorite so far is the Lodi. And this is the Lodi branch I'm trying to kind of bend a little bit to be more horizontal. And I do want to keep this height under control so that I can pick apples without having to get on a ladder and then fall off and break my neck. Around the apple trees, really around all my trees, I plant different kinds of flowers to attract beneficial insects. This is yarrow. I have a marigold here. This is echinacea. I have a hard time growing echinacea here. Maybe it's just because the wood chips haven't fully decomposed yet. This is a mess of cantaloupe. I put these on soccer cones to keep them off the ground. They tend to get attacked by bugs and insects when they are left on the ground. But you can also buy cones, but I had a bunch of soccer cones laying around. This is another Nanking cherry. This is a white Nanking cherry. It's called Ian. And this is the first year I've put this in too. It's the first growing season. And it actually does really well with hot summers. So if you're struggling with Nanking cherries, try Ian. And it does benefit from a little bit of shade from the cantaloupe as well. This is a Wellington black mulberry. This is the second or third growing season. I cut it right here when I planted it. And as you can see, it's like, I don't know, 15 feet tall. I will prune this back, but this is a really tasty black mulberry. And this is my best Nanking cherry. This is the second full growing season. It's done really well. All right, this is the last part of the garden. These are all cherry tomatoes. This is a area that gets full shade in the morning and afternoon sun. This area is west facing. I have another Chicago hardy fig hidden over here. In the front I have, these are low bush blueberries. These are alpine strawberries. That's oregano. And these are currants. Serviceberry here to provide some shade. Serviceberries will take some shade and don't necessarily need full sun. Plus the fruit's just not that good, so I don't really care if it doesn't fruit. And then in this area, because of so much shade, I put King Stropharia mushroom spawn. I got quite a flush this spring, but not any this fall so far. If you've made it this far on my first garden tour, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I've watched hundreds of YouTube videos over the years, and I've gained a ton of inspiration from people such as James Pregnoni, Stefan from the Permaculture Orchard,
Cameron from the Busy Gardener channel, Paul D up in Connecticut, and Kevin Espiritu from Epic Gardening. And last but not least, my favorite horticulturist, Dr. Lee Reich. So if you enjoyed what you saw and you would like to see what this garden does in the future, please subscribe and like, and thank you again for watching.